السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. ازيكم متابعيني واخواتي في كل مكان في الوطن العربي؟ كل الحب والاحترام والتقدير لحضراتكم من الشمال للجنوب ومن الشرق للغرب. بنحبكم بالزاف، بنبغيكم بالزاف. كل التحية والاحترام. بجد عايز اقول لحضراتكم عن حلقة النهاردة او فيديو النهاردة، فيديو من الفيديوهات اللي تسببت في ازعاج كبير جدا لاعداء دولة الجزائر، وخاصة اقول لكم على حاجه قبل ما نقول خاصه، يا ريت ننزل نصلي بينا على حضره النبي عليه افضل الصلاه والسلام. عطر فمك بذكر الرحمن، اوعى تنسى تعطر فمك بذكر الرحمن. ابدا يومك وانهي يومك دايما بلا اله الا الله وان محمدا رسول الله. لو انت اول مره تتابعنا تقدر تشترك في القناه وتفعل الجرس وتدوس على زرار الكل يوصلك مننا اشعارات بالفيديوهات. اللايك الجميله اوعى تنساها، علشان خاطر في فيديو النهارده تفاصيل مهمه وحكايه كبيره جدا. مش عايز اقول لحضراتكم ايه هي دلوقتي علشان ما اقطعش عليكم الحديث، وكمان علشان حضراتكم تستمتعوا بكل كلمه بتتقال وتفهموها وتعرفوا الكلام ده ايه المقصود بيه ومين بالظبط مقصود. ودولة الجزائر من الدول الكبيرة اللي تستاهل ان كلنا نقف جنبها وندعمها ونساعد كل حد موجود في الجزائر بيقول كلمة حق وبيقول لا اله الا الله وان محمدا رسول الله، اللي كتير جدا في مكان تاني واكيد حضراتكم فاهميني ما يقدروش يقولوا لا اله الا الله محمد رسول الله، وهي دي الكلمة اللي ما يقدروش ينطقوها، لان ده دايما هيفضل بالنسبة لهم العدو اللدود، العدو الاكبر بالنسبة لهم، ولكن لا يعلموا ان هم اللي اعداء مش احنا اللي اعداء. الكيان اللي ما يتسماش حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل. عايز اقول لحضراتكم قبل ما نبتدي الفيديو بتاعنا يا ريت نصلي بينا على حضرة النبي عليه افضل الصلاة والسلام. انزل تحت بقى هتلاقي ايقونة على شكل القلب، تقدر تضغط على الايقونة دي وتقيم القناة باي قيمة انت شايفها. ويلا خالص نسمع بقى التفاصيل دي اللي مش فاهمين الكلام بيها رايح على فين.
With, as always, an audience of distinguished experts and one or two enthusiastic amateurs like me. For someone of my age, Algeria will always be a special place. The anti-colonial struggle fought by the Algerian people against the French Empire was of epic proportions. The sacrifice gargantuan. More than 1 million martyrs to be free of French colonial rule. Most of them in Algeria, some of them in France, some of them ending up floating in the River Seine in the middle of Paris. The heroism of the fighters of the Kasbah, the heroism of the women fighters of the FLN, the liberation movement of Algeria, the Front de Libération Algeria, the National Liberation Front. The woman prisoner, Jamila Bouderi, standing in a French court and uttering these words: I am an Arab Muslim woman captive in the hands of foreigners, which she sent as an appeal to all the men of the Arab world, all those who consider themselves to be Arabs, to be Muslims, to be lovers of freedom and independence. The great leaders, one of whom, Ben Bella, God rest his soul, I became a close personal friend of, was sang to by him in his beautiful singing voice many times. A giant of a man in every sense. His successor, Boumediene, made Algeria in the 1960s one of the citadels of radical revolutionary politics, standing up against empire, standing up for the Palestinian people. Algeria was carved in our hearts. In recent decades, things have not been so clear-cut. Algeria ought to be a major player on the world stage, but is not. Algeria is the biggest country in Africa, the largest country in Africa, yet is seldom spoken of as an African power. Algeria has a huge population comparative to most Arab countries, almost 45 million. It has a high income per capita, more than $16,000 a year income per capita. It has treasures of oil and gas. It has a gigantic coastline on the Mediterranean. It ought to be a major player in Mediterranean European affairs. But it is not. What's happened to Algeria? Well, to be fair, the tides of men ebb and flow. The revolutionary nationalist politics for which they stood iconically have undoubtedly ebbed in the previous decades. And Algeria became the home to, either because of or as a result of, or causing a insurrection of Islamist fundamentalism long before other countries knew what that phenomenon meant. Algeria had an Al-Qaeda problem before Al-Qaeda, had an ISIS problem before ISIS, either as a result of failures of the political system in Algeria, failures of the distribution of wealth in that wealthy country, or because it was unlucky. Algeria became a place where mass murder most foul became present on every street and for many years. And the defeat of that Al-Qaeda, ISIS type phenomenon was brutal and bloody. Some would say too brutal, some would say too bloody, which begat in turn a sullenness amongst a section of the population which preferred the Islamist trend to the nationalist trend. With the ebbing of revolutionary politics came the ebbing of the democratic idea. Although Algeria has a parliament, in fact, a bicameral system, although Algeria nominates and elects its president in a free election, the last one was generally adjudged by the international observers to have been free. In truth, there's not much democracy in Algeria, and the parliament doesn't call the shots. Who calls the shots in Algeria is rather like the camel, difficult to define, but easy to recognize. Le pouvoir, the power, the decision makers are regarded by the people of Algeria as a group of people not elected by them and not removable by them. A collection of people from the deep state, from the intelligence service, from the army, from the veterans of the independence struggle, though necessarily because of the march of years, they become fewer and fewer. The FLN that led this great, epic, heroic independence, freedom struggle is still in power in Algeria, but it's not the FLN that it was. And then there's the president. To give you an idea of how long President Bouteflika has been around and how old he is, let me tell you this story. When I took a red London bus from Big Ben to Baghdad in 1991, I spoke in the middle of the night in the great city of Oran in Algeria. And after I spoke, a very old man came to me and said, "You know Che Guevara spoke in this very hall?" I said, "Really?" "Yes, on the stage you just addressed us from. He came here with Bouteflika, who was the Minister of Youth in 1962. And in 2019, President Bouteflika, now as old as the hills of Algeria, is contemplating running for yet another term as President of the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria. That's a matter for the Algerians. It's not for me to say. But it strikes me that Algeria needs a new generation of leaders. That's all I'm going to say. And I say it with love for Algeria, for its history, for its martyrs, and for its great people.
اهلا وسهلا بحضراتكم مره تانية. نتمنى دايما نكون عند حسن ظنكم ونقدم لحضراتكم محتوى دايما يليق بيكم كجمهور واخوات واهل وعيله كبيره جدا. الواحد بيتشرف انه بيتكلم معاهم، وبيتشرف كمان بكل رسائلهم وكل اللي بيتابعوني على مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي سواء الفيسبوك او الانستجرام او تيك توك وكواي والحاجات ديت. انا طبعا مش متابع عليها قوي، ولكن تقدروا تتابعوني للي مش قادر ان هو يتابعنا على اليوتيوب من خلال الفيسبوك مباشره. ان شاء الله نكون عند حسن ظنكم. وشكرا جدا لكل حد تواصل معايا حتى النهايه. شكرا لكل حد اول مره يتابعني واشترك في القناه وفعل الجرس وخلاها على زرار الكل. وكمان اللي منسيش من كل اخواتي ومتابعيني واهلي وعيلتي الكبيره جدا، منسيش يعمل اللايك، او نسي في الاول يقدر يعملها دلوقتي. يلا مع بعض بجد واكتب رايك وهرد عليه بنفسي. واللي عايز يتابعني او يبعت لي حاجه على الخاص يقدر يدخل على هي ايه الحكايه مع هاني السوالمى على الفيسبوك. سهل جدا انك تكتبها وتطلع قدامك وتتابعنا، وكمان هتلاقينا بنرد على كل رسائلك. شكرا بزاف، نبغيكم بزاف، والسلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.